Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Coffin Talk Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. Our guest this week is Crystal Cunningham. She's a retired humanitarian surgeon who has been published in physics, chemistry, and surgery textbooks, and she is now fulfilling her dream of writing poetry. For much, 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 much more, please follow her on Substack. It'll be in the notes. It's probably easier to see it and click on it, but check the notes of this podcast or on YouTube and click on it and find her. And with no further delays, Crystal, how are you doing today?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm doing great.
Awesome. And where do we find you today? In which fine location?
I am in the beautiful Black Hills of Rapid City, South Dakota. This is
Wow.
where I grew up at. So I did a full circle and came home.
That's awesome. And we met in Arizona. We're both writers, so that's how I know
hmm
you. But I was intrigued because we don't often get surgeons turned writers, or perhaps writers turned surgeons turned writers. But either way, that was intriguing. And then also, South Dakota intrigues a lot of Americans, I think. I think you're the second least populated state. Does that sound
Either
right?
South and North Dakota, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know where Alaska's at, but yeah, we don't have many people and the people don't leave. So you don't meet a lot of people from here except the snowbirds in Arizona and
Yeah.
Florida.
So when you left, was that like a big deal?
I left in 95, no, 93. So it was a long time ago. And I would come back and visit every couple months. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But I was at a point where I thought I'm never going to be in South Dakota again.
Huh.
And so I got this giant pheasant tattoo with South Dakota grasses, and now I'm living back here. So I guess that didn't quite go as planned.
Well, is it kind of like there's no place like home? I mean, is that kind of true for you?
It definitely is. A lot of my poetry is geography, and I call it geography and dust.
Cool.
We have a lot of that out here. And I write poetry that is going back from stories my great grandmother told me living on the prairie
Wow.
onto things and the social problems that are happening now.
Yeah. I
So
mean, I'm
not
like,
only here, but globally.
well, no, for sure. But it is interesting because, like, I'm not the most studious person, but like, there's not a lot of. I've been to every state, so I've driven through South Dakota. I did not spend a lot of time there. I stopped in. What's your capital named again? Is it where you live?
Pierre,
Oh no,
our
Pierre. Yeah,
Pierre,
yeah.
Pierre.
And I stopped. I had like a burger, and I left. It was not so interesting as much as the landscape was interesting. The prairies, the like just never ending peace. Also, it like having lived in Iowa, it reminded me of that like just peaceful nature. Like you can hear a stillness when you stop the car and get out. Like it's very peaceful. But I'm curious, like, are there stereotypes of South Dakota? Like if you travel like into other states, or is it more of like a regional?
I have never had stereotypes of South Dakota. Traveling to states, North Dakota, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I trained medical school in North Dakota, so because of Fargo, right? That
Yeah.
like did it for everyone. But not South Dakota. We have our own East-Western state rivalry.
Okay. And
So,
and part of why I'm asking all this is I think like it's interesting when a person leaves, has a career, and then returns home, and you still have a career. I'm not implying that you don't still practice, but what fascinates me is being a surgeon is no small deal. I mean, that's like to me a big deal.
it
So
is. It's a very
yeah,
big deal, big responsibility.
and I'm dying to ask you several questions about it. Probably questions you've answered at every cocktail party you've been to, but you're gonna give your old friend Mike a chance here. What?
I'm
Let's
ready.
let's just start with the basics. Did you grow up like always wanting to be a doctor? Was it like a big dream of yours?
Absolutely not. I grew up I knew I was really smart, but we were very social, economically challenged,
Mhm.
right? So poor as hell. So I was always put in classes for dumb kids because that's what they did
Yeah.
back then. I never thought I would be a doctor. I knew I would always go to Africa. Sally Struthers did this to me. Do you
Wow.
remember her commercials
Oh
from the
yeah,
80s?
for sure.
Right? I saw those and I didn't want to give her money. I wanted to be her.
Wow.
So that is what inspired me to do my humanitarian work. But initially, no, I didn't even plan on being a surgeon. And I initially started school as a fashion design major.
Wow. Wow. That is, would never have picked that in the like lottery of options. What did you get your undergrad degree from that same school and then just go to like a graduate program for surgery, or like what was the next step?
So, how it works is you obtain a bachelor's degree, and that degree has to have qualifying courses to get
Okay.
into med school. It used to be that you really had to major in hard science. That's changed a little bit, but you have to have some hard sciences. So I have a bachelor's in biology, chemistry, and math.
Wow.
Um, that's because the school I went to, anything over 15 credits at the time was free.
Oh, cool. Wow.
So I just took a bunch of credits and I thought I'd be getting a PhD in math. I didn't really think I'd go to med school. So anyway, that's what you do. You get your bachelor's, and then from there you go on to medical school for 4 years.
Hmm.
So I did that in North Dakota, and then you go and train in your surgical discipline. Mine was general surgery, so that was 5 years of training over on the East Coast.
Wow. And okay, as someone who like in bio class had to like dissect a worm, and I wasn't like I didn't start like crying. I didn't like I used to like torture little insects when I was a kid. I'm a normal awful human. But the there was something like different at that point in my life, and like I realized like, oh, this is what separates like those who can do this and those who can't, just because it like wasn't comfortable to take a scalpel and use it. So did you ever have like an inflection moment where you didn't think you could do it, or where something was hard, or did it come pretty easy to you, specifically like cutting into flesh and what surgery requires?
So cutting open live humans is fine.
Okay.
I have no problem. Like it's fine. I had a lot of problems with anatomy lab.
Mm-hmm.
I hated going in there. I don't just these dead things, and I hated dead people. Right, they're things now,
Yeah, yeah.
and I hated transplant surgery. I did
Okay.
not like doing that. It felt creepy holding an organ and putting it in someone else. I don't know why it felt creepy. And the transplant system is extremely corrupt, so that was interesting.
Oh, give me a little information on that. I don't know much about that. I know a little, but not at all, I think, what you're about to tell me.
So essentially there are people that are paid to harvest the organs, put the organs in, convince you to donate these organs or your family member's organ, but the family members receive nothing because that's illegal. And I think that that's a farce.
Wow.
And I have seen professionals argue over organs. So it's been an interesting journey seeing some of that.
I remember I read the biography of Steve Jobs, and he did something where you game the system. He lived in like two states at once so he could get like an emergency organ. So yeah, I mean, is this an American thing? Is this a Western culture thing? Is this an every culture thing? I know you're not an expert, but
I guess I really don't know.
okay.
I do know, like, if I needed a kidney, I would use my flight miles and go to China and
Okay.
get one from a prisoner.
Yeah. Wow.
That's what
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
what they say. That's what they do. I don't know.
Yeah. So, wow. I mean, gosh, there's so many layers to this. I want to go in like seven different branches of a tree, but let's stay focused on well, first of all, I like that you brought up the difference between a corpse in an anatomy class versus a live human. So we're going to definitely come back to that, and then we might come back to organ harvesting and the corruption of it. But first, let's finish like the journey into becoming an official surgeon. Did you have to practice on live patients with another doctor next to you? Like, what's the actual like order of training wheels to like, oh my God, I'm alone, and if something goes wrong, it is entirely my fault.
Sure. So you actually start in medical school. Now, medical students really aren't allowed to do barely anything because of litigation reasons.
Oh, okay.
When I was a med student, they were just starting that phase. So I was allowed to do quite a bit of things. And um, when I was in medical school, I didn't know what specialty I wanted to be in. I thought I would be a radiation oncologist because of my physics background, and I worked on the collimators of these machines. And I decided that was horrible. I didn't want to do that. And so they told me to be whatever I didn't look at the clock. So I was like, well, surgery.
Huh.
And so I really didn't think I'd pair up in surgery. In March, I think it's the second Tuesday of every year, they use a game theory method where the medical students rank where they want to go and institutions rank the students and you get matched up.
Oh, okay.
So when I went for my 5 years of study in Easton, Pennsylvania, and then from there, I went overseas and I focused my surgical training on urology, obstetrics, and some orthopedics I trained for in France because I knew where I was going to be working.
Which is Africa?
Africa and very rural United States.
Okay. So you were driven by your heart. I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth. Like you want to help people. That was
I think so. I think so. I either want to help people or I want to cut people and not go to prison. And this was an out.
I love that answer. That's awesome. And I think, I mean, to be very honest, I think that is kind of what all of our collective societies need to figure out is how to take someone and let them release whatever they have passions for, because I don't think passion is bad, but I think the release of passion is something that we all have to question, you know. Like
Mm,
I have a passion for comedy, but I learned early in life, don't make fun of people at their own expense. That makes you feel bad later. Like, yeah, you get the laughs, but no, that doesn't make you feel good, you know. So same with like I like cutting flesh open. Oh wait, not like Timmy next to me in the third grade. Um, did you ever have something go wrong and it wasn't your fault? And what was the feeling if that happened?
absolutely, things have gone wrong. That was either due to infrastructure or even if it was my fault, right? Surgeons make mistakes.
Yeah, I just didn't know if I
Um,
should separate the two. Is all.
when a surgeon makes a mistake, you feel it physically, the mistake that you made.
Okay.
And hopefully you can correct it. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a feeling. You feel it physically and it really weighs on you. And I think we remember the ones that were difficult or that we up on much, much more than the thousands that we didn't.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Hmm.
that sounds right. You know, kind of like playing music on stage. You remember like the three times you hit the wrong note, not like all the other ones.
Right. And surgeons do have kind of a confessional.
Oh, okay.
We have something called morbidity and mortality conferences where the only attendees are surgeons and people studying to be a surgeon. And they will explain any type of incident that occurred and how to prevent it next time.
Wow, that's really cool. Actually, that's I guess that's kind of like when police officers have to go to like mandatory counseling after someone dies in like an interaction, even if it was justified. The human conscience probably needs some attention for that. What what is it like? What is it like knowing that you're gonna make mistakes that are fatal? Like you're going to. Like what is that pressure like?
Yeah, it's really not an option.
Hmm.
That's not the pressure.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
that's extremely rare because we're very well trained.
Yeah,
So making fatal errors is, I guess why we have malpractice. I don't.
yeah, yeah. No,
Um, I've actually not made a fatal error. I've lost patients.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's just not an option.
And are you allowed to say, like, I will not do this surgery? Like, if you're working for a company and they're like, hey, this person needs blah, 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 are you allowed to look at the statistical likelihood of survival and say, like, I'm not willing to do this? Or do you just have to go in and do it?
I think we'd have a frank discussion with the patient,
Oh, okay.
know what their survival would be,
Yeah.
give them some autonomy. Some people may find a huge operation with a long recovery period and a 5% chance of 5 years worth it.
Yeah.
Some people may not. So it's up to a patient, I think.
And do you ever have like fantasies or whatever the negative version of the word fantasy is where you get some awful thing that needs to be operated on and then do you have like a friend or a doctor that you want to specifically do your own surgery?
No, never.
That's awesome. I'm just curious. These are the things I like lie awake at night thinking about when I think about occupations and occupational
No,
hazards.
never. I do have friends that I know if I had certain diagnoses where I would go and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so would you say if I was a young student and I was in med school and I was like, "Hey, I'm considering the path of MD, like just diagnosing, helping patients, sending them to a surgeon versus I want to be a surgeon." What would be the thing you would warn them about the most about going into surgery? Like what would be like, "Okay, but just so you know, this is like the biggest occupational hazard that I experience."
So my path was not as direct as most surgeons. I went immediately into humanitarian work,
Okay.
and it was extremely fulfilling. A lot of surgeons and med students in general pick their specialties based on their debt.
Oh, wow.
So it's not always the drive for something. Um, I don't know. I guess there are a lot of lifestyle interviews, and surgeons across the board consistently report that they do not like their lifestyle. That is very hard.
Okay. When
And
you
they're
mean
unsatisfied. And I
okay.
think that's a systems problem and a staffing problem.
Got it. So there's not really like a, oh, well, this is going to happen at a pretty high frequency and you might want to not do this for that reason. There's nothing like that. I'm trying to think of a way to relate what I'm thinking of.
Well,
I'm
you
not,
could think
yeah,
of it as, for example, if you're an obstetrician, you're going to be going in and delivering babies in the middle of the night all the time.
got
That's
it.
just going to happen.
Yeah.
So, as a general surgeon, you get called in a lot for traumas or things that need to be operated on, and in the middle of the night all the time.
And
So,
so in humanitarian work, are there times where like there's no one more qualified than you to do something, but you don't feel qualified to do it, so you nevertheless have to do it?
absolutely.
Can you tell me a story from that? If you have anyone that stands out?
The one that stands out right away was and it's not even anything, I don't know. Someone said I guess there is no such thing as a small surgery, but they have a really, everyone has HIV, you trip over it over there. And this gentleman had a real large tooth abscess, like he couldn't even open his mouth. And I don't do stuff in the oral cavity. So I was like not liking that. But then no one else is going to do it. So yeah, I would call friends back home from overseas and ask, like, what would you do or how do you do this?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so
Hmm.
cool. I feel like in talking to you, I feel like I'm talking to like an aviation pilot back in the early days who's just like, hey, you got to get in the plane, you got to fly the sucker. Something goes wrong and light comes on, you got to figure out how to land it. Like, am I like slightly on? I mean, is that kind of how it goes?
That is how it goes,
Yeah.
much in third world countries. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also
You
there's
don't
an,
like it to be that disarrayed, but I worked in areas of a lot of political instability for the most part.
Mhm.
And that is always that type of thing going on.
And when you walk around and you go into town and stuff, do you wear like something to indicate that you're a humanitarian worker? You're not some like American corporate like manager.
Only when I worked with a couple organizations, they requested that.
Okay.
We did that. They said it was apparently prevented kidnapping, but I only when I was with those organizations. Otherwise, I didn't know.
And
I
then,
was usually in very small areas, so people knew who I was and what I was doing.
okay. I admire what you do, by the way. I hope these questions are making sense to you. Like, it's just such a foreign world to me. And also, like, I don't usually get into contemporary politics, but as a person who's traveled to a lot of countries, like about 30, I feel like the era of Americans traveling all over the world with like a sense of joy, it may be coming to an end because of the damage we've done, like as a country. And I would not blame one administration. I would blame many. So, do you still want to go back out and do that work, or are you safely retired into the South Dakota area now?
Oh, I'm burnt out. I'm done.
Yeah,
It was fun. It was great. I could fly for days to get anywhere. And then one day I just didn't want to do it anymore.
yeah,
So, yeah, it might have to do with my grandkids.
that's a great reason. I mean,
So
yeah.
that's why I came back to Rapid too. It's family, grandkids. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm turning 45 this year and I'm not having a midlife crisis. I think my midlife crisis is coming in 5 more years. But what I am experiencing is like the passion to do things is diminishing. Like I'm just starting to understand that, like, oh, I kind of would like to rest more. I kind of would like to, like, I was reading a book before we started this call. Normally I'd be like furiously trying to get some project done. Is that is that nice on this side of like being a surgeon? Like, is it nice to be done with that side of your life?
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Oppenheim, the host of Coffin Talk, the show you're currently listening to, and I'm interrupting to ask you if you would mind doing me a favor and subscribing to my online publication called You Are Here on Substack. It features weekly essays. I also have fiction, and of course, there are links to the podcast and all the bonus episodes. It's completely free, and I would love your support. So please head over to mikeyop.com, that's MIKEYOPP.com, and sign up today. Thank you. Bye.
I have a lot of animosity towards the American health system.
Me too.
So I'm just glad to be out of the American health system. And I guess I am kind of tired of taking care of people because I've always been on call 24/7, have
Yeah.
my own clinic. I just burnt out. So I'm happy where I'm
Yeah.
at. I also have a bad autoimmune disease and my
Oh,
hands don't work as well as they can either. So
yeah. Wow.
yeah, I'm looking at starting, maybe a medical advocacy business
Cool.
to help people navigate the complexities of healthcare.
That's awesome.
Um, I just want to focus on my writing and making music and my family.
Yeah. Well, first of all, your writing is amazing. And I'm not just saying that to people listening. Crystal's memorable from 2 iterations of coming to our writing group. And the first one, she was memorable, not so much your personality, because you like showed up, we read your poem, and then you left, and I don't think you came back for a few months. But then you started coming back regularly. And then obviously you were endeared to my heart and memorable. But the thing I will always remember is one time you just like stood up after your phone was loud as hell, and everyone else has, like, I tell them turn your phones off, and you were the exception, and you're like, oh my god, I gotta go do surgery. And it was like Saturday morning at like 9:35, and I was just like, oh, this woman has a real ass job. Like this is not and like you just got up and left. You were super polite about it, and it was like so funny because talk about like, I know you weren't faking, but talk about like my dream excuse to have. Just anytime you're bored at a party, just be like, oh, gotta go on call. There's a surgery. But for real, like it was incredible to watch that happen. So thank you is I guess what I'm saying.
Sure, no problem.
So now you're back in South Dakota. You're writing a ton, or you're writing a little, or you're publishing little and writing a ton.
I'm writing a lot.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think I just curated a book of poetry.
Awesome.
And I'm still trying to get this memoir out. So I've been working on that for a while. So
Your memoir is incredible. Your memoir is
thank you.
incredible. Yeah. And actually, I'd like to segue that into the canned question of the podcast, which is what do you think happens when you die? So I want to ask you that question, but then I want to kind of like intertwine your answer into like how I read your memoir and your poetry. So we'll have a little fun with that. But first, the pivotal question: as someone who has seen people die in front of you, I don't feel embarrassed asking or saying that. You certainly have seen a moment that I saw only twice in hospice, maybe only once actually, which is like literally like the glimmer leaving in the eyes and stuff. Granted, usually your patients are probably knocked out, but do you feel like you have an edge on like what happens when you die because of that, and what do you think happens when you die?
I've seen a lot of people die. I worked in very situations where basic needs meant people died. And my family members, I've seen them through some deaths, and I see that glimmer, that light, like gone. I don't think anything happens. I think it's just over. Game's over. Although in times of mourning, I'll definitely pull out some type of spiritual card and hold on to it for a while, and then I'll let it go.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to someone about that the other day about how like no matter what, faking that motion sometimes is just worth it. Like it's just for me, it's when something really bad happens to me, I have to like throw my hands at the mercy of the universe and just like hope that there's someone or something that's like watching it or in charge of it and just feels pity for me. It's compassion. Either one would work. And that's kind of when I read your memoir. One of the things I didn't read your whole memoir; you had not finished it. I read 3 chapters of your memoir, the first three. I loved it. I was riveted. Some people got up and had to leave, not because it's bad, but because it's too good. That's how I would explain it. It's provocative and not in a fishing for attention way. It's provocative in a holy crap, this really happens to people, and this woman is brave enough to write it and write it accurately. So I hope that translates into like extreme appreciation for what you do. And I really want you to finish that memoir. I think that it's unique. And I think there are stories like yours, but yours is unique and the way you tell it is very unique. Did that in any way contribute to like your idea that like when you die, the lights just go out? Like, do you feel like your childhood informed some of your philosophy today?
So my childhood, I was raised Protestant. I was raised Lutheran. Um, and I believed there was a heaven for a really long time, a kid growing up. And then, I started just learning more about biology and chemical reactions and how the brain works and the seat of the soul and things like that. And I started questioning things, and then I started studying all sorts of religions, right? Buddhism, Taoism. I became a Catholic for a while. We have Native American traditions here. I spend a lot of time. My family's Native, so all the things. And I just decided I was done looking. Like I wasn't getting anywhere with it, and I thought that science was the answer. So
Yeah, and I think scientific materialism, scientific rationalism, I don't know which term you prefer, or you prefer none of them, but my point is, some people see it as cold, as harsh, as like not, light driven and worshiping a deity and all that. I don't see it that way at all. But what I always want to ask people like you and my father and many of my family members is, does that like in turn yield like a tremendous compassion for what's going on in the real world? Because like you're a humanitarian, so
I don't think I was necessarily driven by my belief systems of life or death. I was definitely driven by um the gift of an extraordinary intellect
mm,
and my heart.
cool. And
Hmm.
uh
And adventure.
and a what? Sorry. One more time.
Adventure.
Oh, adventure. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That part. The 20-year-old in me that's, long dead loves the adventure of that and like wishes I could go back in time and actually do that. I was so close to Peace Corps when I was a kid, and then someone talked me out of it. Someone my own age. They were like, "It's the worst experience I've ever had in my life. Don't do it." And
They weren't always the happy kids that I
yeah,
thought.
yeah, yeah. But with all that said, I also I would use like a very strong negative word to describe my opinion of the American medical system. I would say that the greed and like just the hypocrisy of it is mind blowing. It's to the point where I'd rather not pay health insurance premiums just to spite the forces that be, and then just if I didn't have kids who want me to live, I would just let my body die from whatever weird cancer I get. But I do pay health insurance premiums through my wife's package at work. I am a part of the system. I did watch some guy named Luigi blow the brains of a CEO, and I definitely had a lot of thoughts in my head. I'll just go that far to say I don't want more of those things to happen, but I wish the reason that happened would be talked about more. With all that said,
Yeah.
uh,
I
go ahead.
I
Yeah,
don't have health insurance, so I mean I can't afford it right now. What I'm doing,
yeah,
I didn't have it for the majority of my life, I think. Um, the thing about healthcare and free healthcare, everyone should have healthcare. It's just not a reality for our country.
hmm
I think healthcare is what, like, our fourth GDP.
yeah. It's definitely high up there.
It's not going to happen
Yeah.
when that's an income like that. So, um, I think that I just don't think that that's a reality. And I'll just say that over 500,000 medical errors are made every year,
Wow.
causing medical deaths. That's not even the number of injuries and things that happen. And I think that is because it's being driven by this system's approach. It used to be physicians used to run hospitals and things like that. Now everybody has a master's in health administration, and that's who's running everything. So it's challenging
It's so funny because
there for my colleagues.
I was trying to turn this into like a happy ending because I was going to ask you about like something that I think would put a smile on my face. But then, of course, I had to go dark. And then your answer is like so matter of fact and so actually like honest and correct, in my opinion, that I lost a lot of my gusto. But I was going to ask you, and I still want to ask you, having traveled to so many different places and experienced cultures in a very different way than like an American tourist would, like when I travel, I still show up to the major airport. I have bags. I'm like clearly just a tourist. Um, do you feel like there's a culture or cultures out there that are doing it better than us, despite all the propaganda to say that they're impoverished, they're not as good as us, blah, blah, blah? Or would you still say it's probably better to live in America?
For what?
For peace of mind?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I planned on retiring like without these grandbabies. I thought I would retire in either northern Vietnam or Morocco. Um, I just there's great places out there. It's easy to live. There's great people. It is great out there. That's what I have to say. And regarding also medical care, you can get medical care very cheaply and affordably in other countries and very well done.
Yeah. When I lived in
Not a
Thailand,
third world developing country that's currently in civil strife.
no.
Not there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, when I lived in Thailand, someone was like, "Oh, we have the finest nurses and surgical equipment in the world," and I actually had the audacity. I was much younger to be like, "I don't think you have it on America." And then I like looked into it, and Americans fly to Thailand regularly for surgeries. It's like absolutely their numbers. Like speaking of the one that you just mentioned, they have less of those than we do per capita, and yeah, it was pretty mind blowing. So I think the that's kind of why I mentioned like American propaganda is I feel like we drink a lot of like we're the best country, we're number one juice, and it's probably not helpful. I am talking too much. I like to have my guests talk more. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your poetry, or if you want to talk about your memoir, or both, and then we'll wrap things up.
Sure. So I've been writing poetry for a few decades now, and I just started coming into my own voice probably in the last 7 years or so. Where it's definitely like that's a Cunningham poem when you read it. I write a lot about the things that I've experienced as a physician, the things I experienced overseas. I write about the bull of life that it was growing up uh, with, the a boomer mother. I don't know what else to say about that. Even poem I operated on my father, and I wrote a poem about what that was like.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah.
You remember
Yeah,
that one?
you're really memorable. I'm
It's a good
not.
poem.
Yeah.
It's a good damn poem.
It's a great poem.
And my memoir is called Suicide Kit, and it's getting real close to completion. I've moved as many times in the past 6 years. So it's getting there. And that is a memoir about childhood. And I left home when I was 12, and I never went back to live there again. Things just were not well for me there. And so there's that is in the memoir, as well as having my child when I was 14 and school, all the things, but it's short. And that memoir, the intention is then for each chapter of the memoir to then become another small book.
Yeah. I mean, it's compelling. You have like an honesty, and there's heart behind the honesty. It's not like I want attention, gimme attention honesty. As a matter of fact, I would almost argue it's the opposite. It's like something is compelling me to let this out, even though I've been trained to hold it in, and even though most people don't want to hear this. But I really do think the aptly titled memoir Suicide Kit is incredible. You have promised me to send me a beta copy when you're done, so are we still on for that? All right, cool.
Beta copy coming your way.
All right. I will read it. And my wife will be like, "Why are you crying?" And I'll be like, "You want to read this?" But for real, that's
Yeah, you don't know if you should laugh or cry.
actually that's really true. And I'm glad we're close enough friends that you can say that and I can admit that, because it is like you do have a wry sense of humor. I mean, you got like it's in there and it's imbued. So, well, thank you,
Thanks.
Crystal. This has been incredible. Are you still nervous? Do you feel okay?
I'm all right.
All right,
I'm all
cool.
right.
Cool. Are you
Yeah.
proud? Are you proud of yourself when you go to sleep at
Yeah.
night? Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully get some subscribers, some more
Yeah.
subscribers. I've been working hard at it. So
Cool.
just gonna keep working at it.
Well, that's good because I'm a fellow Substacker and we are a team and we all have to help each other. And I don't really
Yeah.
understand how it works, but I know that if I were to stop, I would feel heavy and sad. So I encourage you and everyone else who's a writer. We may live in like the transcending world of AI and the what is it, technosphere emerging, but if you're compelled to write, you got to write. That's what I would say. You know.
Right? Yeah. You're right. That's what you do. When you're compelled to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you just crawled out of a mine shaft or whatever. Like you write.
Yeah. I love it.
It has to come out.
I do always give my guests the last word on the podcast. Is there anything you'd like to tell our audience? It's okay if you don't have anything, but you're full of wisdom. What's something you think the average American should know?
That my poetry is good, and you should purchase my book of small poetry that's coming out and look for my book Suicide Kit.
All
That's
right.
the wisdom that I think you can have from anyone everywhere, anywhere. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it'll be in the notes. There will be links to find you, and then people can subscribe. And thank you for your sense of humor. Thank you for real. Thank you for your dedication to doing what you were meant to do. It's actually impressive, and it does make a difference. Meeting people like you it changes my negative stereotypes of our world. Like, as I get older, I want to give up. Well, there's a lot of mornings where
Good.
and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
there's other good people out there, and we are like, I don't know if fighting the good fight is the word for it. I would just say not fighting, maybe. Like,
I'm just showing up.
yeah, showing up. That's really what matters. So, again, everyone, there will be notes for how to find Crystal Cunningham, and it's pretty easy. You go to Substack and look up her name, or you click on the link that'll be in the notes. But either way, please do find her. Please read her poetry. Please support her. And I don't think Suicide Kid is out yet, but when it is out, we will announce that too. And once again, you've been watching or listening to Coffin Talk. My name is Mike Oppenheim, and we will see you soon.